Hello everyone and welcome to All Things Watched. In this video we are going to talk about the brand new Apple original movie which was called The Family Plan, and this movie had an absolutely stacked cast. It had Mark Wahlberg, Michelle Monaghan, Zoe Colletti, Kieran Hines, and Van Crosby. So this movie just had a stacked cast. Other great actors as well, Kellen Boyle, Maggie Q, so many other great actors. And so this movie was really an action slash comedy. I don't know that you would go as far as saying a thriller, but it was definitely an action comedy. And honestly, for the first hour or even hour and 10 minutes, I thought that this movie was actually so good that I actually thought about putting this in my 2023 top 10 until we got to a little bit past the hour or hour and 10-minute mark. Once we got really to the second half of the movie, I felt I sort of had a little bit of trouble with the pacing. So essentially what the movie is about is Mark Wahlberg's character. He portrays a character known as Dan, and he's married to Jessica, and they have two children, Kyle and Nina. And of course, that's all the main cast, all portrayed by Van Crosby, Zoe Colletti, and Michelle Monaghan, and of course Mark Wahlberg. And so they are all a family in this movie. And honestly, I loved their dynamic. I thought Michelle Monaghan's character Jessica played really well off of Mark Wahlberg's character Dan. And of course, the children did a great job as well. And they really did a good job at playing siblings, but also as playing, daughter and son to these parents. And I really thought that all the chemistry was done really, really well. And for the first, like I said, the first half of the movie was, for me, pretty well perfect. It was almost flawless. Everything about it worked for me. The action worked. The comedy definitely worked, especially with all the scenes whenever Dan had like an action scene or a fight scene. He would oftentimes, get in these situations when he had his little infant, little tiny baby. And it was just so funny. And the little baby's reaction was so funny that it fit the action really, really well. And so I absolutely loved the first half of the movie, and I personally don't think I would have changed anything about it. I thought all the comedy landed, the action made sense, and the family dynamic just worked so well, and everybody's on-screen chemistry was just, at an all-time high, and I absolutely loved it. And like I said, the movie is about this family, and Dan, of course, is a retired, assassin, or some form of like special ops dude, or assassin that used to work with the government. I think it was like a privatized, like a private company, but was subcontracted by the government or something along those lines. Like either way, he was like this assassin that worked for the government, but his family doesn't know anything about it. He left that world behind, and now he's a family man. And so, of course, this is sort of why there's a whole bunch of action and why there's people coming after him and whatnot. And so, like I said, he sort of has to keep his family safe while also trying to keep them out of the loop. He doesn't really want to tell them about his past, but of course, you don't need to be, a genius to be able to figure out that eventually his family will have no choice but to figure it out because of everything that happens in the movie. Obviously, eventually the action is going to catch up. His previous life is going to catch up, and he's going to have no choice but to tell his family, what's going on. And so everything, like I said, up to the first half of the movie, I thought was absolutely perfect. The comedy landed, the action landed, the chemistry worked, and all that good stuff. But then when we get to the second part of the movie, or the second half of the movie, say the last hour, or even the last 40 or 50 minutes, I really felt like the movie really changed. And it was no longer like an action comedy. It was more of an action movie, and it really just started to take itself very serious. And I actually, for me at least, and all these things are subjective, but to me that made it feel like the movie almost had a pacing problem, because it was very consistent, it was very consistent and really made sense in the first half of the movie. But then I feel like the second half, the tone was so different that it almost felt like a pacing issue, or maybe not a pacing issue, but maybe it felt more of like a tonal issue, where it felt like you were watching a completely different movie. And then, of course, when you get to the very end of the movie, and everything is sort of revealed, you figure out who the bad guys are, and you figure out why they're after him, and all this kind of stuff. I also didn't really like the connection from the bad guy and to Mark Wahlberg's character. I didn't like how, like I said, it's hard for me to talk about it without ruining it for you, but I didn't like the relationship that was between Dan and the main villain at the end of it, when it's all revealed and you find out what's really going on and who's haunting him. I didn't like how they made it still about family, and that's as far as I'll go with that. I didn't like that aspect of it. I kind of liked the idea of him just simply being someone, or I was more so hoping that it was going to be turn out so that it was like, maybe his character, Mark Wahlberg's character, knew too much information or something, and maybe the government was just afraid that he could become like a loose cannon or become a threat, and so they send these people after him. And like, I was kind of hoping it was going to go that way, but it ends up going a completely different way, and to me it just didn't really make sense, and I didn't really, I guess you could say I didn't really buy it. I didn't really buy into the situation. I didn't feel like it was realistic. I just felt like something like that would not really happen in the real world, especially with when you figure out the connection between Dan and the nemesis and the bad guy of the movie. When you see, the relationship that they had maybe in the previous life, I just didn't really buy it. I didn't believe that this would really happen, especially considering that, he was married and had these children, and they were sort of involved and very heavily involved at the end of the movie. I just don't think that someone would do that. At least not, maybe they would have done it to Dan, but I don't think they would have done it to the children. And so for me, I didn't really buy it. And so because of this, by the time I seen the movie, I went from, this movie potentially being one of my all-time favorites of 2023 to maybe not so much my favorite at the end of the movie, just because, like I said, I really did not like the direction that the movie went in the second half. And so for that reason, I would give The Family Plan probably a 65%. Still an excellent watch. I still highly recommend you watch it again, watch it, and if they did make a sequel, I would totally be there. I would definitely watch it and see it. I would love to see this story continue, but it's just, I hope that they keep it more, I just hope that they don't do it the same way that they did before, but I don't think there will be a sequel, but who knows nowadays, anything could happen. But like I said, I loved the first half. The first hour and 10 minutes was probably some of the best filming that I've seen in a long time. Absolutely loved it, and all that good stuff, but I just didn't really buy into the third act, and I didn't really like the actual resolution and conclusion of the story overall. And so with that being said, folks, that's my review of The Family Plan. Let me know in the comment section below if you've seen it, and if you'd like to tell me why or why not. If you like this video, click that subscribe button, and until the next one, take care.